Camelot. 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 It's only a model.
Okay.
Welcome, fungus, thals, and spirodons, to the 108th episode of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 27th of May, 2015, and featuring Planet of the Daleks, written by Terry Nation. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and with me are Mad Matt Winchell.
Hello.
Randy Ronson McCulloch. And Aaron Romeo Moon Burke.
Hello.
So, we got actually some, fairly small bit of news this week, but I guess more positive stuff. No deaths listed.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Randy's audio is working to start it.
Randy.
I know before we started streaming, Randy was doing some work on his audio. I'm not sure if he can speak right now.
Yeah, I'm checking.
Okay.
Audio died.
His audio just died.
Ah.
Which is really odd because it's a brand new microphone and headset. So, would you like me to take over for his reading part here, quick?
Sure.
Alright, so, we had back-to-back birthdays this month. Peter Cushing, who played Doctor Who in the Gordon Fleming movies, as well as many sci-fi and horror films, including Star Wars: A New Hope, would have turned 102 yesterday, May 26th. Okay, happy birthday, other Doctor Who. I guess, Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, also we had sci-fi icon Christopher Lee, known for acting alongside Peter Cushing in Hammer horror films, and for appearing in Star Wars: Attack of the Clones and Lord of the Rings, turned 93 today. So,
Yeah,
happy
I
birthday.
never realized that Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing were so close together.
Yeah, they really kind of shared a career.
One has to wonder if they had shared birthday parties at the Hammer Studios.
Drinking party this weekend?
They had to have gotten along a little bit, you know. Can you imagine working with someone that often?
Considering how many movies they acted together, and I hope they got along.
One hopes.
It's like if they couldn't stand each other, they must have had a miserable job.
Someone goes up to interview Mr. Lee about stuff, and he's like, "No, I really hated that man. I really did. I couldn't stand working with him." Aw, sad face. All right, so those are our birthdays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in our book news, we've got two pieces of book-related news. The first off is that Doctor Who: Impossible Worlds, a 50-year treasury of art and design, is going to be released the 27th of October this year. From distant galaxies to the far-flung future to ancient history on the planet Earth, Doctor Who is unique for the breadth of imaginative possibilities it offers. It offers the artist charged with bringing each episode to life. Mining the depths of the BBC archives, Stephen Nicholas and Mike Tucker have compiled this breathtaking collection of rare and never-before-seen images that are interwoven with fascinating insights from the show's writers. Also, The Man Behind the Master, the biography of Anthony Ainley by Karen Louise Hollis, that I believe we announced earlier this year or late last year, which is scheduled for release September 14 of this year, is now available for pre-order. You can pick up a copy signed by the author at phantomfilms.co.uk for £19.99 UK, or £27.99, which is about 43 US dollars overseas. If this is a bit steep for you, and I wouldn't blame you, Amazon has the book available in non-signed format for $18.71 at the moment. Any British listeners also have the option. Actually, give me just a second. I hadn't had this contest information opened because Randy was going to be covering this bit of news. But there is a contest available for British listeners to win this piece. And, it seems I didn't save the link for that either. I'm sorry. Give me just a moment. Minor hiccup. Doesn't help that my computer, for some reason, doesn't like the Phantom Films website at all, which slows things down. Eesh,
It's
come
okay.
on, Internet.
I've only tweeted this to BBC and BBC America.
Anyway, there is a contest on DoctorWhoNews.net. Actually, I think it might have just loaded up. Here we go. Have a chance. Okay, what you'd want to do is email to comp-phantom, Phantom, at DoctorWhoNews.net, answering the question, in The Keeper of Traken, Jeffrey Beavers and Anthony Ainley both play the Master. Name another television series in which both actors are credited together. You want to include your name, address, and the fact that you heard about this from an Unearthly Podcast by the 7th of June. And again, this is for UK residents only. So those of us like this podcast hosting team that are not in the UK will not be eligible for entry. And move on to Peter Capaldi's news.
Okay, so Peter Capaldi, I almost call him Capaldi, the 12th Doctor will be appearing for the first time at San Diego Comic-Con in 2015 at the Doctor Who panel. The convention is July 9th through the 12th and is currently sold out for attendees. That tends to go pretty quickly, I would assume.
It's usually sold out the same day tickets open.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course there's always a Doctor Who panel at the San Diego Comic-Con.
Yep. I know 2013 at least there was a big trailer, I think, for Day of the Doctor. I'm not sure if they did anything special last year. And our final bit of news, which means, wow, we've gone through news really quickly today, but there wasn't much to it. Yeah. First off, for Big Finish, Iterations of I by John Dorney, which was part of the 5th Doctor box set, is among a total of 5 Big Finish stories. That's the only Doctor Who one nominated for the Scribe Awards this year. Also in Big Finish news, newly released in the 4th Doctor Adventures is Suburban Hell, written by Alan Barnes. Somewhere in a suburb of North London, there's a crisis. More than a crisis, a positive disaster. Belinda and Ralph are expecting 4 for supper, and there's no Marie Rose sauce for the prawns Marie Rose. All in all, the evening couldn't possibly get any worse. Until the doorbell rings, bringing the Doctor and Leela to the dinner party. As we know, the Doctor and Leela are atrocious dinner guests. They've got a crisis too. Temporal wreckage has sent the TARDIS to another time zone entirely, meaning they might have to endure a whole evening in Belinda's company. But the Doctor and Leela aren't the only uninvited guests tonight. There's a strange fog falling out in the road, and in that fog, savage blue-skinned monsters, with dinner party plans of their own. Because it's not prawns Marie Rose on their menu, it's people.
I love the Big Finish stuff.
And that pretty much sums it up. Anybody have anything else they would want to bring up tonight?
Nothing particularly, nothing at least Who-wise, other than the fact that I keep hearing people slowly getting converted to the cult of Mad Max.
Yes, we actually went and saw it for the second time yesterday. We saw it in 3D this time. Randy was a little bit disappointed by the storm. It was not very much additional 3D added to the storm. It was more of almost more of an atmospheric 3D, with people standing in front of people, and there was a little bit more depth to those scenes. And then of course you have the steering wheel that flies at the camera towards the end of the movie, so that one was obviously in 3D, and the guitar version of that was really awesome. Because the guitar flies at the screen, and then you have the wheel that flies at the screen. That was a little bit more cheesy, but I don't know. It's pretty awesome. The people there seem to enjoy it a lot.
I would have gone a second time by now, but when I was finally going to do the planned go on Sunday, my main ride and one of my friends since high school, Fred, not even high school, middle school, Fred, was coming up here, and on his way here, hit a deer.
Oh, jeez, is he okay?
The last thing he told me is he thinks he was missing a few teeth.
Oh, jeez.
I have poked him today, and I have not heard back from him as of yet. And it seems like a lot of people are having it rough. Apparently, the cinema snob, I'm trying to think of his real name.
Brad Jones.
Yeah, Brad. Brad recently had a epileptic seizure.
Oh, jeez.
But he had warning signs, which he knew about a bit, so he was able to go to the hospital just before it hit. And then he went to the hospital again because while he was talking with friends and messing around on his back deck, he suddenly, and he can't even remember it happening, he suddenly tipped backwards over his railing, fell and busted up his face, and apparently broke his arm.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
because he fell backwards onto gravel.
Man, that's awful.
Yeah, so he's got this big red mess down one portion of his face a little bit, and he's got his arm in a cast. He's just like, hey guys, I'm finally home for the first time in a couple days. Hi, Lloyd. It seems like everyone's getting themselves hurt this week.
Well,
hopefully I'll hear back from Fred soon, and maybe we can plan to see Mad Max before it leaves theaters.
In our little family situation, we finally discovered why Nappa was scratching at the leg of the kitchen table and at the wall underneath the kitchen table.
Oh?
Apparently, Bucky has been pouncing him in the litter box, so he's been peeing in that area the whole time without us knowing about it.
Nice.
Yeah. So I set up a secondary litter box for him, which is what we should have done to begin with, but, you know.
Cats will be cats.
Yep. Hopefully this will help clear things up, and hopefully he'll feel a little more comfortable there. So if not, we'll have to keep him in the bedroom here. Keep him separated from Bucky.
They can't behave themselves.
So, since it seems we're still waiting for Randy's audio to work, anybody want to volunteer for the summary this week?
Not it.
I'm not even sure if I have a stopwatch available on my phone at the moment, since I recently reset it to factory.
Oh.
I could do it if need be, but I definitely don't have a stopwatch.
I have a stopwatch. I think I do. My phone is definitely not reset to factory settings. It's slow as hell. Stopwatch. Here we go. Alright, so I've got the stopwatch apparently up here. Stop. Reset. Okay. Sweet. It's working. So I'm ready to go whenever you guys are. Unless we hear back from Rand.
I don't hear anything from him right now.
Yeah.
And I'll admit that this is going to be a pretty short episode, but as far as I'm concerned, that's actually not a bad thing.
Yeah.
So, should I?
Go ahead.
Do you want me to go check it? You go check in the living room.
If you want to.
Here, I'll be right back. Yay, informal podcast stuff.
This podcast today, just,
Okay.
Now we're
Yeah.
ahead of schedule, if not necessarily keeping the gaps entertaining.
Yeah, Rand's schedule, or Rand's computer is rebooted, and he is loading up Skype as we speak.
okay,
to
well, I
remember
guess
that
we'll
his-
wait and see if he finally comes back.
Yeah, we have to remember that his computer is extremely slow.
By the way, I do want to mention something about this episode that is not in my good, bad, best, worst list. I want to make sure it's not in anybody else's before mentioning it, though. That scene in episode 6 that I had mentioned, possibly making the opening bump about. Is anyone going to be discussing that later on?
I don't know what scene you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know offhand either.
Okay, so
I
that
think I
is
was
You'd have to
probably
actually
not on your
explain it
best,
to me.
worst list, but this episode is, semi-infamous, although I hadn't realized that this was the one, but it has been talked about. They essentially needed many more Daleks than they had actual props for. So there is a scene where there's essentially somebody's Dalek action figure collection filling up the screen.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know
It
what scene you're
doesn't
talking
look too
about.
bad. They do manage to make it move a bit. If we hadn't already had an opening put together, I was recommending that we intersplice that with Dark Helmet yelling at the Doctor for knock next time before catching him playing with his dolls.
That would have been actually pretty good.
Mm-hmm. If you would have thought of that about a week in advance.
Yeah.
But
one wasn't
as
my
far as
fault,
I'm
though.
concerned, it's not that bad of a scene either.
No,
Yeah.
it's
It's
not.
at least what you expect out of a big model scene like that, because yeah, of course you're not
Yeah.
going to have that many Daleks back then.
It's not bad enough to get on the worst list, and it's not good enough to be Day of the Doctor,
Yeah.
which did brilliant miniature work.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, I'm not sure what you really expect from, what is this, 1972?
Yeah,
Could be
it looked reasonably well. You know?
Oh no, I'm sorry, 1973. 1972 would have
Yeah.
been Day of the Daleks.
It was not on my list, so.
Yeah.
And I was actually kind of hard pressed to think of anything for this serial. I was actually, I'm with Tim. I'm actually quite disappointed in it. So, not to spoil my own review, but
But you are.
yeah, spoilers, whatever.
So is he still loading?
I think he's still loading.
Oh.
Loading. He'll probably write to us. You should probably write to us if he is ready. As I shout, try to shout through our paper-thin walls to give him a hint. I don't know, they seem pretty paper-thin. So I bought Tales from Borderlands.
One other random note. This is about regarding the behind the scenes of this episode. The Supreme Dalek, the gold one, is actually apparently based on a prop that Terry Nation owned from the second Dalek movie.
Apparently it was gifted to him.
Okay. Which is part of why it's different than the basic drone Daleks that we see otherwise in the Third Doctor era.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, actually the eyepiece is missing, so it's actually just a flashlight on there.
Yes, I did remember seeing that it was that they had included a flashlight one that would go on and off when it spoke. Also, the lights on top, if you notice that they're larger, which I wasn't sure what to refer to them as other than ears. Apparently, they're just officially called dome lights, so that I guess so Daleks can tell who's talking.
I just call them speech lights, but yeah, they're bigger like the movie
they're apparently
ones.
fitted from jam jars.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Funny
is why they're
Daleks.
so much larger than the other Daleks.
Funny Daleks.
And again, they look a lot like the movie ones and a little less like the TV ones
Right.
normally did.
But this is the first time that I'd seen two Daleks with different size lights side by side, and it finally clicked in my head that yes, when I think they're different, they really are.
I thought it was pretty neat. It's it's not just a different colored Dalek. It's actually, physically, it's quite different looking, like the shape of it.
Some of the bits and pieces, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Randy's gonna be here anytime soon.
Let me go check again.
It's been, 5 minutes?
He's probably still loading.
Aye.
All right. Well, we can go ahead with the summary while we're waiting for him to.
Oh, he had a piece of malware, so he's got to restart again.
Oh, okay.
We can go ahead with the summary, and he can catch up when he gets.
Yeah.
Press on without him. Leave our fallen comrade behind.
Aaron, you want to start the clock for Matt's 5-minute challenge? Do we care about the 5-minute challenge today?
He's shouting something. I'll be right back.
Let's abandon him, just like Top Gear. When our friends are in trouble, we abandon them to sort it out.
Abandon him like Joe abandoned the Doctor in Part 1.
Oh!
He says we still have 20 minutes of news time that we should stall.
We have... Tell him we've been stalling the past 10 minutes. The news ended that long ago.
That's how quickly news went, because we weren't talking circularly about everything. Because we don't need to.
We just had nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
They're not really that big articles either.
The news ended like 10 minutes ago already. Oh! Oh! Stop!
Okay,
so how about that Borderlands?
This is one semi-news bit of thing. I did see. I'm not actually. Let me see if I can get the source while I'm talking. But I did see a preview of that crossover series, crossover miniseries that Titan is doing, apparently by the name of The Four Doctors. What the preview includes is essentially it's showing the War Doctor, obviously, along with some Time Lords and some Vords on the planet Marinus, which has pretty much been devastated by the Time War. The Doctor makes a not really promise to the Vords to try and convince the Time Lords not to revert everything back to the way it was before the war. And then we cut to the 12th Doctor with Clara trying to talk to him about Marinus, and the 12th Doctor claiming not to know anything about it. This is on, this was io9.com is where I saw this.
Alright, because I'm looking up the Four Doctors right now, and they only refer to it as a Big Finish production. On Wikipedia.
Here's the link.
Okay.
It's a totally different thing.
Okay, good, because...
I don't remember it by the name of the Four Doctors. You don't mean the Four Companions, right?
It's... Nope, The Four Doctors is a Big Finish Productions full cast audio drama based on the long-running British science fiction series. Let me see here. Yeah, it's also on TARDIS Data Core. It's stated as being an audio adventure too for Big Finish.
Okay, for some reason that never made my list of multi-Doctor stories, but. Yeah. It's not part of the main range, which is probably affected that. It's probably a little harder to find. Mm-hmm. But either way, the link I just sent into the chat is the preview I was referring to. If you want to scroll down that quickly enough.
It's a comic.
That's what I said. The Titan adventure that we announced last week, I think.
All right, I wasn't quite sure what that was. Titan Comics, okay. Sorry, I'm not that familiar with the
I'm not sure
comics.
how I feel about the artwork of the new characters is great. I'm not sure how I feel about the John Hurt and Peter Capaldi artwork, honestly. It looks a little off to me. Even the Clara artwork looks a little
The Capaldi one looks really off, and the Clara looks like she has huge cheeks. And the one thing that I could see.
John Hurt looks like super John Hurt in this. He's like super pissed off and super awesome.
Also, that crashing, what I assume is a Dalek saucer, I thought it was the Millennium Falcon at first.
It looks like they took the older characters and tried to make them look much younger than they actually are. I don't know how I feel about that.
It's called the artist doesn't know how to draw old people.
That is
Maybe.
true. That is actually very true because so many artists, when I was going to art school, a lot of people were attracted more to, everyone wants to draw youth and everything.
That's part of it. It's also how often do you see someone over 50 doing nude modeling for all the art classes?
Actually, we do have some. Because what you technically what you want to do is want to find someone who's fairly skinny, not to be biased against overweight people or obese people or chubbies like myself. But what you want to do is you're trying to learn where all the muscles fit onto the bones and everything like that. So
Although that said, modeling with heavier people definitely would have helped when I was learning to draw, because even now I sometimes have trouble making things look realistic for heavier characters, and a lot of art just isn't interested in that.
Yeah, and I had a professor who, when he was working in Chicago, he would hire bums off the street to come in.
This is probably the last thing I'm going to say on this tangent, but with my ex, I used to draw characters a bit more realistically proportioned, and my ex always thought that I was drawing, that I was drawing more obese people, and I'm like, I didn't get it until I realized just how much of artwork and her artwork and artwork in general is just geared toward uber skinny, wasp waist characters.
Yeah, we had I had a fellow student. She drew a series of pictures of all the important women in her life, like all of the matriarchs of her family, essentially. And she drew her grandmother, who was apparently deceased, but she drew her as a young woman. And I was like, why didn't you draw your grandmother as an older woman? She's like, and I asked her, would it make you feel uncomfortable if you did that? And she's like, yes, it actually would have. So she apparently didn't want to think of her mother as, some wrinkled lady. But then I've also had art teachers in middle school and high school who wanted us to focus on drawing older people because there's character in the wrinkled and imperfect human form.
We need more McGonagalls and Capaldis in fiction.
Yeah.
Oh, so
All
that's
right,
also done.
This also looks like a superhero comic. This one guy looks like he's becoming some kind of pseudo Ant-Man thing going on.
Oh, the Lord assimilation process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is very similar to the Venom symbiote in those two panels.
Very similar. I wonder if someone used to work with Marvel. Anywho, shall we get going?
Yeah, let's go on with the summary.
Alrighty, close this.
And Randy cries foul in the next room. It's like, you assholes! I told you to wait for me, you assholes!
It's not our fault that his computer decided to crash.
Well, he got malware on it, apparently.
Luckily, that said, the storm I was going to warn you guys about ended prematurely, so I'm not worrying about my connection failing in mid-process. Otherwise, it'd be SOL right now.
So, are we ready?
Yeah, we got the stopwatch.
I'm ready. Let me get the stopwatch out. Hang on.
Okay. Give him a countdown. Give him a countdown from 3 when you're ready.
Hang on. All right. Ready, Matt?
Ready.
All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
The Doctor and Joe Grant pick up exactly where they more or less left off with the last story, which is that they're going to a planet of Daleks to try and stop their further plans to invade the galaxy. However, after the events of last time, the Doctor is extremely drained and gave a telepathic message to the Time Lords and then collapsed on a bed. The TARDIS then is controlled by the Time Lords to head over to a new planet and drop the TARDIS and the two companions off. Joe keeps checking on the Doctor after also finding a log to record what's going on. And as things continue, she thinks that the Doctor is getting worse and that she needs to find a way to help warm him up. So she is forced to leave the TARDIS and tries to seek help, barely managing to avoid some plants that are spitting random chemicals at her as she passes by. To this, she continues to venture forth and manages to find a crashed ship. After a few moments and almost leaving the ship, she is cornered by 3 other humanoid people who have blonde hair and yellow jumpsuits, and they mention the fact that they are the Thals. If you know your Doctor Who, these are the humanoid people from the first Dalek story. Apparently, they have become recently space capable and are continuing their ongoing fight against the Daleks as they attempt to again invade other planets in the galaxy. So they are also in on the fact that there might be a Dalek threat here. They helped Jo by hiding her, but before they had left, they didn't decide to check to make sure that she wasn't attacked by the spores that are being shot out by those plants. As it turns out, it turns into a fungus which will grow over an entire person's body and take them over. She was sprayed on the hand as she had dropped her recorder earlier and is slowly getting taken over by the fungus virus. We also find out that there are invisible aliens, I forget their name at the moment, but they are natives of the planet, and one of them has been keeping an eye on the Thals as well as Jo Grant. The Thals go back to the TARDIS after being told that the Doctor is there, as he is apparently a part of their legends now. They manage to pry the TARDIS open and get the Doctor out of there safely. They mention the fact that these spores will grow fungus on people and proceed to help him get back to Jo as quickly as they can, while avoiding the locals as well as finally spotting their first couple of Daleks. So they are forced to very carefully move back to the ship. In the meantime, Jo had come out of hiding and is found by one of the invisible people and is taken in. This one is not under the sway of the Daleks, unlike most of his other people. There is apparently a small pocket of resistance amongst them that continues to try and find a way to outsmart and outwork the Daleks' machinations, because they don't really care for the fact that the Daleks killed about, I think, 2/3 of their population, thereabouts. He puts a potion on Jo's arm, and she eventually gets healed back to normal, I think within 1 day. Meanwhile, the Doctor and the Thals are trying to get back to the ship, but it is blown up by the Daleks, and the Doctor is taken captive, along with one of the Thals. They proceed to break out while Jo was breaking in and trying to figure out what's going on. The other Thals decide to come in through a cooling vent, also trying to figure out how to get in to possibly stop whatever the Daleks are planning. If nothing else, to at least set off bombs to destroy the only 12 or so Daleks that they were aware of at the time. However, they also come in contact with another group of Thals who got more knowledge about what was going on, and that they apparently captured some messages coming from the Daleks saying that they literally have an army of thousands of Daleks hidden somewhere on the planet. They go in there also to try and see if they can find them, and also see if they can destroy them as much as possible as well. They managed to barely get out of the cooling vents in time, to which the still open cooling vents managed to spray on and stop 2 of the Daleks. They continue to try and dodge hallways until they end up in a back room with a huge cooling system, which they don't understand.
Time.
Oh well.
Yeah, you're about 1/3 of the way through the story too, I think. Maybe a quarter of the way.
About halfway. A lot of the next act gets kind of skipped over as it's just running about mostly. But they find this huge cooling system, and the Doctor finally figures out that what they've been doing is keeping the large army on ice. The army of frozen Daleks are pretty much just sitting there docile and completely harmless unless the heat was to be turned off and they started to defrost. The Doctor leaves with the Thals to try and figure out another plan, while also going up a shaft, which is where the heat from the cooling system goes up. The Daleks try to send another Dalek on a platform up after them, but they manage to get out just in time and send some rocks after that Dalek and smash it back down to the ground level. The Doctor and the Thals finally meet up with Joe on the surface, and they start to share notes and try and figure out what to do. They finally decide on the plan to be exploding the facilities around the frozen Daleks in order to hopefully make the whole system backfire with the cooling vents, causing the molten undersurface of the planet, which is actually more of a semi-liquid ice, to overflow and take over the Daleks and essentially bury them for the next couple of centuries in something that will keep them frozen and unconscious for that amount of time. After a bit of running about, they managed to get their hands on the bombs again. The Doctor and the Thals go in first, while Joe makes contact with the invisible people again. They managed to persuade one of their members to go in and also stop a virus that the Daleks were cooking up with plans to kill everything on the planet, and then possibly reuse the same virus to take over other planets. What was that?
Hey, Randy.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you might want to bring your gain down a little bit.
Working on it.
Okay.
Kind of fizzy.
Yeah, like I said, Stacky needs to bring his gain down just a little bit. So they take. So this particular one manages to stop the virus, and the Doctor and the Thals finally, after a little bit of a fight, get enough of the explosives into the walls inside the main chamber and finally set them off. At first, it seems like it's not going to work, but then there's a chain reaction with a frozen lava eruption, and finally the wall does crack and buries all the entire Dalek army, and the Doctor and the Thals are able to finally go back to their respective ships and finally head off to where they were originally planning to go in the first place. The end.
Okay, how do I sound now?
Still really gainy.
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
Now you sound a little bit better. You need to back up a little bit, I think.
Okay, that was my problem.
So I take it one of your new programs didn't work as you'd like it to.
Weirdly enough, it was the only way I could get it to work once I flip a switch. The problem was that I flipped that switch right when you went into go time. So I'm like, okay, that didn't work. I shut everything down, and
yeah, you're still clicking a lot too.
That's because I'm still making adjustments to settings.
Yeah.
I'm also not on my usual microphone. I'm on one of the con microphones.
Oh, actually, that would be my microphone too, then.
Yes.
Alrighty.
Yeah, it's like me. I try to do something cool for program, and it winds up exploding in my face spectacularly.
Which is why I prefer to just trust in the stuff I know that'll actually work, because it fails too often.
Well, it was the fact that today I actually had all the time in the world to test it, and once everything was said and done, we had no time to test it. So I apologize to anybody out there listening, and as usual, it's always a pleasure to be here.
Mm-hmm.
My sound okay now?
No, you sound absolutely terrible.
Really broken up, yeah.
You're constantly breaking, you're constantly just all kinds of jitter.
So wait, the ringtone modulator was malware?
No, I think the site I downloaded it from added a little piece of malware to it.
That I wouldn't be surprised.
And thank you so much for spoiling the surprise, yes.
I'm sorry.
Did I lose all audio again?
No, you're still here.
No, but you do feel very distant.
It's not
But it actually
distant.
sounds a little better than it did in a couple minutes ago.
It's finally stopped gurgling a little bit.
Enough that if it stays the same, we could probably go on and just fiddle with it after the podcast. Sounded all right, but low volume.
Try talking now.
How does it sound now?
Sounds a little quiet, but you're not getting the reverb gurgle.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you turn up the volume in Skype, that might make up the difference.
That's what I just did.
Oh, him? Yeah. No, we can just barely even hear you.
Yeah, it
You're
sounds
going
like
the
you
wrong
left
way.
the room.
Okay, how about now?
Louder.
Just barely heard you.
Yeah.
How about now? Alright,
This week on Tech Issues.
Yeah, it's kind of a
There you go.
technical issue. I'm gonna try to chat with Matt later and see if I can get this to work. Part of the issue is whatever I did has completely disabled my headset mic.
Oh, that's lame.
That's really weird.
Yeah, I have to be on the external mic or it doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna have to keep it a little bit closer to the microphone so we can hear you.
I'm almost eating the microphone, Matt.
And now we can hear you.
All right, so I think we've at least fiddled with it enough to the point where we can hear it clearly, and we can go on to likes.
So general overall liking.
Unless Randy has any non-microphone related news he'd like to discuss.
Well, I did go to see Mad Max again, this time in 3D.
Yeah, Aaron was mentioning that a little bit.
Yeah, my end result was it is worth seeing in 3D if you have that option and not paying too much more. If you're in one of those places that charges you like $3 to $4 more just for the 3D viewing, don't bother. But if you have a chance at the same price and one of those people that don't get headaches, see it in 3D. It does add something. And it's mostly good 3D. Like James Cameron's Avatar was good 3D, not bad 3D like Alice in Wonderland or Beowulf was bad 3D.
I didn't know that Beowulf was in 3D. Okay.
Oh, my mother and I saw it in 3D, and it was all sharp, pointy things coming at your face. And that's bad 3D.
As a cheesy 80 movies fan, that's generally how I prefer my 3D because I can actually notice it.
I'm fine with both.
I generally see the non-3D showing if I have a choice, though. That's my
generally, I like 3D that enhances the environment. It actually, adds a sense of depth to a movie, and this added depth.
Okie doke. Anywho.
The one that you tend to like, I tend to find to be a gimmick.
It's all a gimmick anyway.
All right,
they can do 3D in a movie theater without needing 2 sets of glasses. Maybe I'll watch more 3D movies.
So anyway,
contacts.
Overall favorite thing about this then?
Yep. So we're at our 4 likes, dislikes, etc.
Yep.
All right. Well, since I can be heard, I can be spoken for, and I'll go for Matt here.
So starting with me again, eh?
Yeah. Well, there's 3 people on my Skype window, and you're the far left.
Okie doke. So the general thing that I really liked. I liked that we decided to make the entire story one planet and was at least discernibly different. Instead of just like a normal single biome, we actually have different places to look at. We had like a nice open field at one point, we had a rocky area, we had a forest, we had a base built into a mountain, I believe, in fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Definitely.
It felt a little more than just one biome, which usually the alien planets up to this point had more or less been, which I think is a little bit on Tim's.
Yeah, it's kind of from Tim's point of view, but I totally agree too.
Yeah.
They really did try to flesh out this planet.
Can you guys still hear me?
Since
Yes.
Yeah.
yes,
Very
since there is overlap with Tim's, I'm just going to read what he said now. He mentioned that his favorite thing was the fact that this was truly an alien planet with ice lava and the glowing rocks and the animal plants. Too often, planets in science fiction are regulated to a single biome or characteristic, such as the desert planet or the Viking planet. Pretty much right along the same lines.
More or less, except I was more about the different environments, and he was like the little things that helped also set it apart.
Yeah.
All right. Ow.
So
Bill,
those-
go ahead with
yeah.
what you liked.
Okay, mine is, it's not necessarily in the same track, but it builds off of it in that it's a much more solid and involved story than some accounts I had seen had given it credit for. It's more more involved, and it's meatier, I guess you'd say, than something like the Daleks, and it works better as a result. Part of that is probably the fact that the Doctor can do more things, and pacing had improved over a decade.
That definitely
Bill, this
helps.
story was the Daleks.
Like, and I'd seen it referred to as that, but actually upon rewatching it, I actually feel like there was a lot. I don't know. It just felt like there was more to it than the Daleks. More to the Doctor, more to the Thals.
More to the planet itself.
Yeah,
I actually
Joe
feel
was
the
more
opposite.
entertaining
but
than the Daleks.
Joe is more entertaining than Ian, Barbara, and Susan.
In that story, I think so.
So.
Yeah. I do kind of like Joe in this one.
All right.
Yeah, she wasn't
Aaron?
completely a basket case in this one.
That's going
Yeah,
to lead
she's
into my... Yeah.
fairly
That's-
competent. Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Go ahead,
That's
Aaron.
going to lead into what I was saying, is that Joe is probably my favorite part of this. She's competent. She's fairly well-rounded as a character, you know. She's not infallible. She's capable of being wounded, and, you know, she does have to be rescued by the one invisible person. You can take it, you know, take it like that, but, like, she's not constantly a damsel in distress. I don't think. She does do some work to try to
She
stop
literally
the
breaks
Daleks.
into a Dalek base and single-handedly starts monkeying around with their shit, trying to find a way to save the Doctor.
Yep, exactly. So.
You don't see a companion that can do that every single day.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, and
Well, yeah,
unlike
Joe,
previous ones.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
this is the end of Joe's tenure. I mean, she has one more serial after this, and she's been the companion now for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Which
So-
is all the more diss to the guy at the end.
Yeah, I know. Aaron and I were actually talking about. You mean the Thal that wanted her to come with him? Aaron and I were actually talking, and we actually thought that the opposite should have been true.
Yeah,
Because
the
it would have
Thal
been
should've gone with
even
the
been worse.
Doctor.
Yeah, the Thal should have gone. Okay, well, if she's not coming with me, I'm coming with her. And then to watch
Mm-hmm.
Joe fall in love with Professor Jones in the next serial,
then
him
he could have been the
heartbroken.
one to throw the hissy fit when she got married.
Yes. And then you move on, you meet Sarah Jane and everything, and dies 2 serials later in Death to the Daleks.
Ouch.
Yeah, well, he's a Thal. He has to be killed by a Dalek. It's a universal rule.
Harsh but true.
Okay,
Well, maybe
so,
if he died while also killing the Daleks, that would actually make up for it.
yeah.
That
So,
would also
my
make up for
favorite...
the fact that there's no major cast changes in the Dalek episodes in the Third Doctor series era.
Well,
as
that
compared to
actually is a
before.
segue into what my favorite thing was Roy freaking Skelton. The fact that
Not
they
the
got
cast I meant,
somebody...
but true.
The fact that they got a actual person who knew how to voice Daleks in
Oh,
made
yes.
Yes, the
everybody.
Daleks definitely sounded a lot better in this one.
Yes.
I
Yes, they
think he
did.
walked up to one of the techs at the BBC Tech radiophonic workshop, smacked them, and said, You have it on the wrong frequency. This is the right frequency. You got that, Michael? Got it.
This is the right frequency.
This
You
is the
don't
right...
obey.
Because he sounded perfect, and Michael Wisher, who was voicing the Dalek Supreme in this, also sounded better than he did
Oh, yes.
in the previous serial, which means that Roy went, no, you got to do it like this.
I wonder if you got in by suggestion by Terry Nation for this episode. I wonder.
Well, I don't know, because I think Roy started after Terry's run as a writer ended. I think he started in either Power or Evil.
Still, he's had quite a run with
also,
them.
Roy Skelton was the Nick Briggs of his day. Because I actually checked his credits, and he was also the voice of Cybermen during the Second Doctor era. He was the voice of Ice Warriors. He was the voice of, I forget this, that, and the other thing. And he was also, by the way, the Spiridon guy who befriended Joe.
Imagine getting him and Jimmy Doohan at a convention together in the 70s.
Oh, Jesus, yes. It may have happened, but if so, it's not been recorded by our knowledge and probably will not happen now.
It was before the YouTube era.
Yeah, I don't even know. Well, Jimmy Doohan's certainly not alive, and I'm not sure if Roy Skelton is. But
if he is, he needs to co-star alongside Nick Briggs one of these days.
It would be nice. I'm pretty sure if he's still alive, he's retired. Actually, I'm pretty sure I heard he died a while back, because I thought I remember reporting that piece of news.
Yeah, I think that might have been a thing.
Yeah, I think that was either earlier this year or last year. But Roy Skelton is an amazing Dalek voice actor, and he'll continue to voice Daleks through the rest of Doctor Who. All the way through, I believe, until either the 5th or 6th Doctor. But by that time, he's managed to coach so many other people that they know how to do it, so the Daleks sound solidly all the way through the rest of Doctor Who. Because apparently, I don't know what happened with Day, and I don't know what happened with Frontier in Space, but between Evil and those episodes, somebody forgot how to do Dalek voices. And then Roy came in, dope smacked them all, and said, this is how you do it. And he got it bang on. So, Roy, wherever you are, bravo. All right, so what didn't you like? Matt?
What didn't I like? So, trying to think. Actually, one little overall nitpick I do have is the thalls. And I mean, just looking at them right now, couldn't they, first of all, picked better outfits for them? I mean, I understand the jumpsuit things, and they did the actual design of it well, but why did it need to be the color of their hair?
See, that's what I was kind of thinking that really fits them, because that feels like a fall thing to wear. You know, the light skin, light hair, light clothes.
Well, I understand a little bit of it, but it didn't need to be the whole outfit. Also, looking at them again, their hairstyles look freakishly the same, like they're the same wig. At least for a couple of the guys.
Fair. I think it was the same way in the 60s, but I get your point.
It's a little more evident now. I think even in the 60s, the extras were at least doing their own work of trying to make their hair look a little different and work for them.
Although I think there are less falls this time, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they really needed to make it different, and they didn't. So that their style comes off a little meh.
Okay, well, on my part, you're done with the thalls, right?
Yep.
Yep. And my part, I gotta say, the Spiridons just don't work for me. It seems like it would be good on paper, but I don't know if it was the purple fur that they were wearing, or the whispering voices, or what, but they just didn't do it for me.
Really?
Well, I like the purple
I get
fur.
the idea, and
so
I kind of applaud the idea, but I just feel like the execution, somewhere in there, it fell flat.
Yeah.
What did I say when we saw the Spiridons marching in? A million Christmas trees gave their tinsels to make those costumes.
You know, it's Barry's favorite colors.
There was one
Purple and
scene
blue.
where, what's his name from the McDonald's commercials?
Ronald McDonald?
No,
Grimace?
the purple guy. Grimace.
Grimace?
There's one scene where the Daleks is covered in that, and I'm like, oh god, it looks like they're banging on Grimace's erection.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh God,
I'll never
Bill.
eat McDonald's again.
Now we know why they're called one-eyed, one-horned purple people eaters.
Jesus, Bill.
Tish.
Good night, everybody.
I don't know if that character was in McDonald's commercials in the 70s, but if it was...
He was. He was in there for quite a while. Definitely in the 80s.
So whose worst thing was that?
That was Bill.
mine.
So it's Aaron.
Okay. So did we get Tim's?
Not yet.
Or did you not have one?
We'll wait until after you.
Tim's. I was going to read that at the end.
Okay. Well, why don't we do it now since Tim is usually in the middle?
Okay. Tim mentions that... Actually, hold... Oh, sorry, I was scrolled down too far. He mentions that his least favorite thing was how weakly it was tied to the previous serial. After the cliffhanger of Frontier in Space, it seems that the new story had very little to do with the previous one other than blink and you miss it references. I do kind of agree with it. Agree with him, although it doesn't drag it down as strongly for me, I think. Well, I do agree with that top point in general.
I wanted to see more of the Draconians and their culture and stuff.
It does seem weird that none of the settings or characters are used after a cliffhanger like that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Even Ogrons would have tied it together a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Heck, it would have tied all three of them together. You'd have Day of the Daleks, you know, Frontier in Space, and then Planet of the Daleks with the Ogrons. Here they're just barely mentioned. I think we lost Randy again.
Did we? He's gone quiet.
He has. I hear him talking in the other room, but he's not coming through the mic at all.
Ah.
Let me just go poke him and let him know.
Sorry, those of you out there.
Technical issues yet again.
This may be one worth having one of us download it and cut it.
He's working on it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
You're a little loud.
Okay. Apparently something keeps overriding and setting my microphone to mute.
Oh.
Oh, that's,
that's kind of
annoying.
That's kind of
I'm being controlled. I'm being controlled by the censor board. I think
Doink.
I think one of my audio programs, as I physically hold my audio level now, is attempting to control my audio switch, and I'm not liking it.
Yeah, you're going to want to uninstall all those programs now. You're probably going to want to reset the previous point too. Possibly,
but I'm waiting for after the podcast to do a system restore. But
yeah.
Anyway, as I was going to say, what was the point before I got distracted?
You can back up a little bit and
the lack of tie-in between this and the previous serial.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was going to say not Ogrons would be the issue, but if they had kept the same Dalek Supreme prop, and made it clear that, you know, the Doctor had just beaten the Dalek Supreme spaceship who fled from the last serial to there.
Mm-hmm. Although I do know that these stories were written independently. Basically, Frontier in Space was written under the assumption that Terry Nation was going to be writing a similar story to the Daleks. And then probably Terrence Dicks kind of cobbled the cliffhanger together to make sure that they worked with each other. Muted again.
This is getting royally annoying. Yeah.
We lost him again.
He keeps coming and going.
That does, wow. That's terrible.
That is because I'm literally sitting here talking and something kills it back to zero. I'm literally fighting my computer.
Back up from your
Oh my
microphone a
God.
little bit.
Sorry about that.
There you go. Because it's also gotten louder, too. For some reason.
Would it be more
Computers
productive if you
become
two?
sentient.
Would it be more productive if you two just shared a mic for the rest of the podcast? Even though I know you guys don't normally like to, but
I'm not sure.
Heaven forbid, you two might have to cuddle a little.
Are you
I can
using?
move. Huh?
Are you using a headset in there, or
I'm using a headset, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to be problematic then.
yeah, I guess.
Well, we could have the area mic and then have everything on speaker? No, then everything would just reverb off of the mic.
It was, it was an idea, I guess, not a good one.
Thanks, Bill. Just kidding.
Well, I meant my idea.
Well,
Oh.
That's right. I think as soon as Randy loses his audio, he can't hear us too either.
Well, no, I can hear you fine.
I mean, if you guys
weird.
want me to, I
Audio.
can move out there and we'll reset this up.
How about you quickly move out there and try to hook up the area mic to your laptop and see how that works while both of you still listen in?
Oh yeah, that could be true. We'll just kill him. I'll just unplug my mic here. All right.
Okay, so we'll hear from you in a little bit. Was it up to Randy's turn or was it your turn, Bill?
It was now going on to Aaron's turn. We were just discussing Tim's point.
What was his point again?
It was the lack of connection between Frontier in Space and Planet of the Daleks.
Yeah, I think we generally blanket agree that there need to be a little bit more something, anything, especially characters or places actually showing up, because they obviously still had some of that there.
Yeah.
I was.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, my thought was the fact that. Ooh, I'm hearing myself.
Funky.
Are you hearing me in stereo now, or?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
Funky.
The big issue I saw was the fact that the Dalek models they used wasn't the same ones that they used in Frontier Space.
Oh, now it's echoing.
All right, we should probably
Now
set
it
up the
shouldn't be.
microphone.
Okay, now it should be good. Yeah, it's back to normal again.
Yep, because my microphone went out
Aaron.
again.
All right, so I'll be talking here. Let me unplug my mic. Yeah. Unless are we plugging this into here or?
No, I think we can hear okay.
Yeah, we're hearing you fine already.
Okay. So, like I was saying, my big issue was the fact that they didn't use the same Dalek models from the previous serial, especially the Dalek Supreme. They had to use what I refer to as the bling Dalek. If they had used the same one, and they had set it up so it deliberately stated that the Doctor had beaten the Dalek Supreme there after fleeing from the Ogron's homeworld, it would have segued better. Instead, we don't see the Dalek Supreme come in until episode 6, and it's a completely different Dalek. It just didn't sync.
Do I get to say anything now, or? Because I
Yeah,
haven't said my
it's
piece.
Aaron's turn.
It was technically my turn.
Yeah.
That's why I was
technically
asking.
Still Tim's.
Yeah, we were wrapping up Tim.
They finished with Tim, but now it was my turn. That's why I was reaching for the microphone.
You don't need to hear it. You can just talk.
But my microphone is unplugged. Can you guys hear me, guys?
Yes.
We're hearing you
Okay.
fine, yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
It's coming through. Your laptop has a built-in microphone, and
What
it's
about this one?
no the built-in one. It's talking to all of us.
Okay.
Trust me, I'm dead here.
Alright. So, let's see here. Alright, so my least favorite in general was just the idea of the rehashed story. Because everything felt overly familiar.
A bit.
So the similarities to the Daleks, basically.
It's the Daleks and some parts of the Dalek master plan. What with the Mirren, was it Myron planet, the planet of Myra?
Oh yeah, the invisible people there too.
Or
I'm pretty sure
Myria?
that's where they got the idea.
That's
Yeah,
probably where
with
they borrowed the
it had-
invisible people.
Yep, it had the jungle with the invisible monsters that were
Oh,
threatening
okay.
the
I
Daleks
know what you
and
mean. I
humans,
remember what you mean. Okay.
Yeah.
And then they also both had Daleks trying to use some sort of device of some kind to try and wipe out an entire planet, if not the entire galaxy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Again.
that was the Time Destructor, and then there was also in the Daleks they tried to destroy everybody with radiation.
Radiation.
Yeah,
Daleks
and
seem to
here
keep
it's
having these,
bacteria.
master plans.
Yeah.
These master plans of using this device, which will easily backfire against us. Oops.
The one thing that can kill us. Yay! So yeah, that's why I was disappointed, because I was already so familiar with some of these previous serials, having just watched them. It feels I can tell a lot more. If this had come like a year or two after I'd watched the Hartnell stuff, it would probably have felt fresher.
It would have felt a little more blended in.
And that's probably what audiences may have thought before, before the advent of, before DVDs and VHS tapes and video streaming really took off. That's probably how people felt about Planet of the Daleks when it first came out, maybe.
True, yeah. There is the fact that nobody had seen nobody had seen a Dalek story in a few years, or not counting Day. Nobody had seen a Dalek story in a few years, and the stories that shares the similarities from were all over 5 years old, and there was no way of reproducing them other than possibly novelizations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that could be, for all we know, that could be kind of a hidden purpose for this serial. It's like, well, these other serials were destroyed. We don't have them anymore, so I'll just rewrite it with this Doctor, and it'll be just like we had the Daleks and the Daleks Master Plan again.
We can Terry Nation back.
We can test that theory next week to see if Terry Nation had any new ideas.
Yeah, we'll see.
We shall see.
So it's kind of it's actually kind of a very light disappointment, I guess.
Yeah, I have to kind of agree with Aaron on this. I don't really have anything other than that. But it really gave me the feeling is we've been here before.
We've been here before. Thank you, Terry.
Next, please.
Yeah.
And we know eventually the directors and the producers figured that out by the time of Genesis of the Daleks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And said, Terry, write something else. So I'm going to skip on mine and best moment. Matt.
Oh, best moment. I quite liked how the Supreme Dalek kind of wandered in and just took control of everything almost right away. First, we start off with a little model him, and then we quickly move to a base to show him up close. He's got these nice little shining lights and everything, and then he instantly looks at the guy who was in charge and starts yelling at him for screwing up, and then literally blasts him and says, "Okay, everyone under my control, now move." So we got a Dalek who's actually threatening to the other Daleks.
Yeah. Dalek actually exterminating when they say they're going to.
Mm-hmm. You've been a failure, and you're a Dalek. You're no longer going to be alive. Yoink. Zap, 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 zap.
All right.
On for mine,
Bill or
then,
Tim?
You said Tim?
Bill or Tim?
Bill or Tim.
Oh, okay. Well, I have mine up right now, so I'll read that first. But I kind of like the scene where the Doctor is trying to convince the Thals who he is and that he's not just a legend. Interestingly, depending on how you look at the Dalek timeline, it's entirely possible that the Doctor is completely wrong in this scene, and that they're trying to remember Genesis of the Daleks, which the Doctor doesn't know yet. But either way, it's still kind of an entertaining scene. It's similar to a scene that we saw in the previous serial, but it's carried out a bit more differently, and they're not immediately believing him. And I just found it to be an enjoyable scene as a result. For Tim, he mentions that his favorite scene is the balloon ride up the tunnel of death.
Yeah.
Considering how slow that ride was, I'm really surprised there wasn't a whole battalion of Daleks just waiting for them when they popped up.
Interestingly, that scene kind of is the first to hint that the Daleks cannot fly because they need special devices to do so, which is interesting because I believe in the chase we do see them jumping from either from ship to ship or something of that nature, except we don't really see the jump. But in here,
Maybe
they
the
very
chase
clearly
happens
need
later.
an anti-gravity plate to levitate.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Be Aaron next.
Bring the toy Dalek on
Aaron.
a disc here.
Favorite moment, then. Let me see here. Where is it? Joe explaining a handshake to the Thal. I thought that was quaint. It was so quaint.
Oh, that's right. You're aliens. I gotta teach you this. Gotcha.
That's right. You're not humans.
Yeah, that was okay, but that was what was leading up to the whole Joe Thal romance.
Yeah, that pretty much was the entirety of the romance. It was much more rushed than the one that I complained about a few
Quick,
serials
let's
back
ship
in the Invasion of Earth.
Let's see, favorite. The thing is, there's a lot of scenes that I think are okay, but none I particularly think are I like. I'm gonna pass. So,
Ouch.
least. Go ahead, Matt.
So scenes that we hate. Anyone I particularly hate or dislike. Actually, the one thing I think they could have done a little bit better and they went really cheap with was the obvious blinking light eyes for monsters that are supposed to be closing in on them. I know they don't have a budget to show much, but oh my god, you couldn't have tried harder to make those look like cardboard cutouts with lights on them.
And they were invisible monsters.
Well, not
And
all
yet
of them.
they cast shadows and had shapes to them.
No, that's just the local intelligent populace. We're talking about wild animals now.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to start arguing about blinking light monsters, you better stop watching Doctor Who here.
I'm sorry,
Those will be
they've already
going
had better
on
effects
all
in
the
this
way through
franchise.
Colin Baker.
Yeah. They could have at least, had them on poles so that they were swaying or something like that to mimic some kind of pseudo movement, even if we don't actually see them get closer.
We could have just put people in completely black outfits with little light things on their foreheads, and it would have been better.
You're like quadrupling the budget for that scene.
Just because it's not cardboard? You mean people can come home with their own black outfits and just put something over their heads?
You mean
they'd have to pay the people, Matt. They can't just take slaves and whip them.
Well, they had
Lazy.
people on set. They had like a whole group of people staring at the monsters on set.
They already had a huge group of people running around being purple people eaters. Just use them in black outfits. We've
Or
only taken like
whoever's
20
running the
minutes of their
Daleks.
time.
Grab a nearby stagehand. Hey, you want to make a couple of extra bucks?
Yeah, we're already paying you. Here's an extra $5. Here, put this on. Now do
Put
this.
this on and go stand
Excellent.
in the shadows and wave these little lights around in front of yeah.
Here, just put this little thing on your head, and now spaz out in the shadows. Excellent. Here's an extra $5. Go get yourself a sandwich.
Wow, yeah. That would have actually made things kind of interesting.
Pay them with bacon sandwiches.
Why not? You could also start tempting them with drinks, too.
Bacon sandwich.
Yeah. All right.
I am hungry now.
So, Bill and Tim.
For mine, my least favorite scene was the Doctor and the Thal leader physically overpowering the Daleks. That kind of takes away a lot of the Daleks' menace. Even if even though the Doctor is clearly, he was clearly acting like he was showing effort, even though he very clearly also wasn't. But John Pertwee was doing his best to sell that scene. But even with that clear effort the Doctor seems to be showing, the fact that can be done takes a lot of the menace away from the unstoppable killing machines.
A little bit.
Even when, the Dalek had the Thal in his sights, prone on this floor, and the Doctor is like, no, yanks the gun arm away. No, that's just not Daleks.
Mm-hmm.
Tim says his least favorite scene was when Cobalt proposes to Jo more or less out of nowhere, and she treats it like he's asking if she wants him to get her coffee from Dunkin' Donuts. I think he was a little harsh on Jo's reaction, but I do agree that was kind of out of the blue. She basically lets him down as gently as she knows how.
Yeah.
She's like, I get that you like me and want me to go home with you, but I'm not.
I need to go to my home too.
All right. Aaron?
Bill and Tim's Amazing Adventure. Anyway, my least favorite moment was when I realized that not only is this rehash of the Daleks and the Daleks' master plan, it's also a rehash of Tomb of the Cybermen.
Oh, yeah. It's even ripping off the Cybermen. You bastards.
Terry Nation's rehashing stories he probably doesn't even know about.
Except that it's not a Thal archaeologist that awakens the Daleks.
Yeah, that's true.
Why that's much of a change.
Although, for all his bitching about it, it was very power of the Daleks. Hey, look, there's a cavern with a bunch of defunct Daleks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So my least favorite moment is the arrival of the Bling Dollar.
the
and
actual
what I
entry.
refer to as the giant floating Rollo. It is the Rollo out of space. Yeah. The echoing is starting to affect with my thought process.
But the big upside down plastic barrel, yeah.
Yeah, and then the guy goes,
Stoop on top.
boy, they can really build ships. I'm like, no. Go back to flying saucers.
Why can't you just borrow the model from the movies? It looked better.
It did, and I'm looking at this thing going, now I'm hungry for Rollo candy. Really?
By the way, Matt, by any chance, while you're doing the stream, do you have a link to an image of that? Just because I can't conjure it up off the top of my head. Yeah, like if you're showing it on the stream.
Just Google Space Rollo.
Actually, here it is. Perfect. This thing. The upside down plastic wheelbarrow with a stoop on top. This thing's a bigger joke than the spaceships from Prince of Space. And that was a 1950s Japanese movie.
Maybe they were looking to try to change things up.
I'm sorry, Crankor's chicken ship is more intimidating and threatening than this thing.
It's the
Seriously, it
BBC
looked like
model
roasted chicken.
department failing.
I smell skunk.
Coming in from outside. Somebody hit a polecat.
Oh, fantastic. Because that's a smell you want.
Maybe that or someone smoking weed.
It's 11:20 at night.
Oh, I see it. I googled it. I see what you. At least it's vaguely saucerish. Vaguely.
Vaguely,
It's a saucer on top of a saucer. It's super saucy.
it's a Rolo that somebody nibbled a groove in the middle.
Although that said, a saucer on top of a saucer plus his jam jar lights, one starts to wonder if the Gold Dalek is compensating for something.
So, by the way, a little side note. That Gold Dalek is Terry Nation's personal model.
Yeah, we were... Or I hadn't
mentioned that
realized
earlier.
when I first said it that it actually was that prop redecorated. I thought it was just...
It was from the second Doctor Who movie.
Yeah.
They gave it to Terry, and he had it repainted. And somewhere along the way, it lost its eye stalk. So they hooked a flashlight up. That is an actual flashlight on it.
And then they
Hooked
put
into the
jam
wiring
jars over
system,
it,
so when the top lights went, the flashlight went on. It is why it's the bling Dalek.
Because Terry Nation wanted his shiny.
Would it be called the Bling Lick?
No, this was the point that I really hoped I'd have the ring modulator going, because I was going to adjust the ring modulator and actually come on as MC Dalek, which is what I saw the second I saw that thing. He would come in there, look at the other Daleks, and go, yo, what's happening, all?
As an honorable mention that I forgot to include on my list, I want to mention the scene where they're just casually, spray paint this so you can see that there's a Dalek here, because the safe thing to do is spray paint Daleks.
Yeah. Well,
Totally a safe idea.
they wouldn't come
Luckily,
away
it wasn't
with
working.
counter that until the news seer.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean the fact that they were spray paint, just to see that a Dalek was there, not even aim at the eye stalk. Just spray paint this invisible thing so you can see what's there while they know that there are Daleks on the planet and he doesn't.
New sport.
Invisible Daleks.
Dalek tagging.
Now we just remove its light, put this chip in there, and now we can detect where it's going. Meanwhile, while we're at it, let's spray paint Bad Wolf on its back.
I do have to say, imagine if invisible Daleks had survived this serial and had continued on to menace the Doctor in the future.
They'd actually might kill him once in a blue moon.
Yeah. Oh, look, I just happened to see the toy Dalek scene on Google.
Another side note about this, you'll notice that there are like a full dozen or more Daleks in here.
Mm-hmm.
Not only
And about
did they
200
have...
Dalek action figures.
I'm not even counting those. Not only did they have about 6 active Dalek models made, they had about another dozen or so wooden Daleks, particularly knocked up for this episode. The difference is, of course, the wooden ones couldn't actually move or roll or anything. But after the serial, they broke those Daleks down into their individual component pieces. And over the course of the next 10, 12 years, they would begin to use those parts to keep the actual working models alive. Mm-hmm. By the time we got to the 5th Doctor era, those Daleks that you saw in there were about 80% wood.
Nice.
Which is why, starting with the 6th Doctor, we began to see new Daleks.
Thank God.
They're like, okay, well, I guess we'll give you new Daleks.
I guess we can finally pull out a mold and start making some new ones.
So anybody have anything else to add?
It definitely felt like they had a lot more to do with the Daleks this time, instead of just 3 of them in a little room.
Yeah.
And we turn on the snooze fest.
It helps that in this case, this is 3 Dalek serials in the span of probably about a year and a half. So at least they've they made 3 last year. They made a few for Frontier in Space. Then they made at least one, if not more, again afterward for this serial. They've been
this
we're
is the
able to keep
most
it
Daleks
going.
we've seen since the early days.
Probably since Evil, since Evil at least.
Evil's only 2, but
I know there were
the
at least
first 2
3 on
seasons of
screen
Doctor
at the
Who,
same
there were
time.
like 3,
Plus
4 serials.
I know at the very least on Evil there were at least 3 on screen at one time, but it's hard to tell because a lot of what we have now is reconstructed. But I know there were the 3 that the Doctor put names on. Plus, I thought there were a couple more in there.
Yeah, there
Maybe.
had to
But
have
they
been
might
at
have been the
least
same
3.
ones. It's hard to tell. I thought there were like 5 on screen at one time, but I might be misremembering.
It's
at
hard
least
to tell.
3 at one time. But yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything to add?
Yep. Yeah. Anything we want to discuss before final thoughts?
None in particular.
All right.
Okay. I think we're good
Final
then.
thoughts, starting with Matt.
Final thoughts. This is by no means a perfect story, and it does get a little forgivable in some parts, but some of it will stick, and to be honest, we've still had far worse. It's just that if you think about it hard enough, you'll realize that a lot of these are borrowed elements, and we really could use them moving on in the story part of the franchise in this right now. And hopefully we'll see some of that next time. And that's
All right.
about it.
Bill?
I'll start with Tim's because his are, very short and written down rather than the ones I'm making up in my head. He mentions final thoughts. This was an okay serial, nothing too terrible nor too extraordinary. For myself, I will say I went into this one with particularly low expectations. Just I had heard, a fair amount of complaints about it. Essentially, that Joe was the only good thing about it, and knew that this was essentially a by the numbers Dalek story that the previous story was stuck on in front of. That said, I was a bit pleasantly surprised in that I did find it to be an above average episode. There, it was a little, there was a little bit more to it, possibly just because at this point stories set on Skaro don't have that high of a bar to hit. Altogether, I did enjoy this episode, although it didn't exactly blow me away either.
Mm-hmm. So,
All right.
Aaron.
I was kind of disappointed by the episode, just because of I was expecting something new, and didn't get it. I was also expecting something to carry on from the previous serial, and there was just barely any references to the previous serial, which I thought was so good.
True.
So, yeah, and I think this serial's failings kind of lift up Frontier in Space even higher. Because, yeah, I was actually holding back on my rating for Frontier in Space, thinking that, maybe Planet of Daleks will be even better. I probably shouldn't rate Frontier in Space too high. And no. So, if anything, it just makes it look all the better. So.
You got suckered by peer pressure.
Yeah.
You gave it a 4.0 like everyone else, except me, who gave it a 4.5.
I would have probably given it a 4.5 if I knew this was coming.
I gave it a 4.0 just because it's based on memory. I'm pretty sure
So
if I saw
my
it again, I
final
probably
thoughts.
wouldn't like it.
Terry Nation had been out of the Doctor Who writing game for about 5 years, at least, when this came out, or when he wrote this. And it shows.
Yeah.
His plot lines are tired. It really doesn't fully feel like he's writing with John Pertwee in mind.
Mm-mm.
I even remember hearing that he was unaware that Doctor Who didn't do individual episode names anymore.
Yes, I did see that in the story notes.
He is clearly unfamiliar with what he's writing for, having been gone for so long and having it change directors producers 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
Now that you said it, I do remember hearing a while back, before I'd ever watched this, that I think he was originally writing for William Hart, like assuming the Doctor was similar to William Hartnell's Doctor.
Yeah, it feels like it. This doesn't feel like a Pertwee episode.
Not
The last
particularly.
serial felt like Pertwee.
Mm-hmm.
Which probably explains why the Doctor is the only one who couldn't climb out of the tube on his own.
Probably. But because of that, it feels like it's a tired, sluggish rehash. And it's really lackluster. I remember reading the book and liking the book, but by the end of this serial, I was browsing on Wikipedia or anything but watching it because it was the same thing we'd seen before. So, ratings. Matt.
The main failing of this, I think, is one or two bad models and overall a really bland and borrowed from everything else story. So I tend to think that this is maybe worth about a 3.5. It's by no means horrible, but it's not just quite middle of the road either. It's just slightly above it just because they did some interesting things here and there, even if they were borrowed.
Okay. Bill?
Well, both Tim and myself give this a 3.5.
Wow. Just a lot of 3.5 so far.
All right, and then you said Tim gave it the same thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he did.
All right. Aaron?
I'm going to go ahead and give this a 3.0 for lack of originality.
All right.
Found it boring.
And I'm going to give it the same thing, a 3.0, because it just felt really mediocre to me.
And there is the idea that, like we stated before, a lot of the previous serials weren't around. They'd been trashed. Another idea presented in some of the extras we downloaded was that it was done on purpose to commemorate the 10th anniversary. Although I believe it was Terry Nation, the really, really old guy on there, whom they had interviewed, and he insisted that that was not the case, that it was just, that's just how his writing was, so.
That wouldn't surprise.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I'm sure Randy's probably taking a look through our totals to get the average. I just want to look at a few stats I have.
The average is 3.3.
Okay, you've already got. Oh, yeah,
3.3.
sorry. We didn't give the average of that. It's a 3.3, which makes it just slightly the lowest rated Third Doctor story we've had. Third Doctor, we have a 3.87 average so far. Vengeance of the Stones was the closest with a 3.3 bar. So that was this is just by a little bit the lowest. Joe Grant also has a 3.8, in this case a 3.88 average, and this is the weakest Joe story we've reviewed by our ratings. Terry Nation has a 3.68 on our averages, with this being the second weakest, just above Daleks Master Plan, and Daleks also a 3.83.
These demographics would mean a lot more if we'd actually reviewed more episodes. Because I think our Joe Grant episodes are like 3 or 4.
We've done 4 Joe Grant stories.
Yeah, the Joe Grant and the Third Doctor stuff would mean a lot more if we actually had a lot more of those reviews.
Mm-hmm.
I would focus more on the Daleks.
Oh, the Third Doctor one, I did not yet factor in the 5 Doctors to that average for some reason. But the 5 Doctors we gave a 3.38, so it wouldn't change it all that much.
Anywho, so that's
still working on getting our overall.
The overall for what, the Daleks?
The overall as to where it ranks compared to other stories.
Oh.
I will say that of Dalek stories, only Asylum of the Daleks and the Daleks Master Plan have so far ranked lower, whereas the Evil of the Daleks is equal.
I can't remember. Was last year's Dalek episode above this still?
Last year's meaning Series 8.
Yeah.
Into the Dalek we gave a 3.9, which is slightly
Just-
above average for a Dalek
Just
episode
barely,
to this point.
yeah.
We have yet to give a Dalek episode below a 3 average. The lowest we've given was Asylum of the Daleks with a 3 exactly.
Well,
Although
yeah,
over
that
the next
works with
few
me.
weeks that may change.
Yeah, it might. All right. So, Planet of the Daleks is number 64 on our list.
Out of
It is
100
between Destiny of the Doctor, Vengeance of the Stones, and In the Forest of the Night.
which is pretty meh territory.
It is pretty much our middle of the road.
This is 60 something out of 110?
105.
105.
Counting with number 1 being the top episode, right? Number 1 being the best?
Yes. Number 1 is Caves of Androzani with a 5.0.
Just don't get many caves of Androzani. Wish there'd be more.
And number 105 is still Journey to the Center of the TARDIS with, I think, a 1. Yeah.
I'm still hoping that in, 6 or 7 weeks, we get another Caves of Androzani equivalent score, but we'll find out then.
Maybe. Just maybe. The Fourth Doctor will definitely help turn that around.
Come to think of it, and the one after that. Oh yeah, that's true. I forget about Genesis because it's not on my list of top 3 even top 4 Dalek stories, but it's up there.
Doctor.
So that's where we stand.
That about wraps us up. If you enjoy listening to us, please consider subscribing on YouTube, Twitch, and Mixcloud. I know Mixcloud hasn't been updated in a little bit. I've fallen behind on that, but I will be uploading some episodes there soon. Also, you can always follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or if you want to support us, you can go on over to patreon.com/Unearthly Podcast. And of course, do not forget to join us next week as we review Death to the Daleks, written by Terry Nation.
That's another Third Doctor, right?
Yes, Third Doctor and Sarah Jane.
Oh my, her introduction.
Yep.
Alrighty, see you all next time.
Mm-hmm.